Hello, friends, and welcome to CEC Online Lectures. In today's lecture, I'll discuss about the quality parameters for crude Hubble drugs. What are the various parameters that help in assessing the quality of crude Hubble drugs? And in brief, I will also discuss their methods, how to determine those parameters. But before we move on to the parameters or the quality control aspect of Hubble drugs, I would just like to throw some light why the quality of crude drugs is so important and it has become a buzzword in today's pharmaceutical as well as the therapeutic world. Now, if we look into the market value, economical aspect of Hubble product market and its value in today's words, it is around 130 billion US dollars, and it is expected to grow to a size of US 7 trillion US dollars. So you can just imagine the growth as well as the prospects of Hubble drug market. But the major concern for this growth as well as the prospects of this market is the poor quality of the crude drugs as well as its finished products. So to overcome the quality issues of the crude Hubble drugs, regulatory agencies across the globe, they are working hard in developing certain guidelines, in developing certain rules and regulations which can control or which can help in improving the quality of the crude Hubble drugs. Regulatory agencies are working and they have developed certain guidelines like good agricultural and collection practices, and it is believed that most of the crude Hubble raw material is either obtained from the raw sources, from the wild sources. Wild means their natural habitat, or they are obtained from the cultivated sources. Now, by developing the guidelines on good agricultural and collection practices, it is believed that definitely we can improve the quality of the raw material that is supplied to the industry or it is used for the therapeutic purposes. So that is why agencies like WHO, National Medicine Plant Board in India, they have come up with good agricultural and collection practices guideline. Now, besides GACP guidelines, these regulatory agencies have also come up with good manufacturing practices guideline, standard operating procedures, and so on and so forth. Obviously, if we are manufacturing a particular product with a specific guidelines and standard operating procedures, definitely we can control the quality of that particular product. So that's why these guidelines are coming up, and regulatory agencies are modifying these guidelines time to time. Now, besides developing these guidelines, regulatory agencies are also working on the standardization aspects of Hubble drugs. Now, what is the term standardization? I will come on to this term later on, but at present, I will just highlight that standardization is becoming or has become one of the major tools for improving the quality of crude Hubble drugs. Agencies are also developing more and more monographs of crude Hubble drugs. Now, monograph is a document that contains all the essential standards of those parameters that help in assessing the quality of a particular drug. So we can say that monograph is a document which is having all the standard values for those parameters for a particular drug that helps in assessing its quality. Now, agencies are also working on the safety and efficacy aspects of these crude Hubble drugs. It is always assumed that consuming a Hubble drug for a therapeutic purpose is safe because Hubble drugs do not show any kind of side effects. But recently, it has been seen that Hubble drugs, if taken along with the allopathic drugs, have shown certain side effects, or if these Hubble drugs are taken in general or as a journal believe that this will help in curing the disease without side effect, some of these drugs have also shown side effects if they are taken alone only. So regulatory agencies are also working on the development of regulatory and safety and efficacy databases or the profiles of the Hubble drugs. And by the virtue of their hard work, we have safety and efficacy data of some of the drugs, but lots and lots amount of work has to be done to develop such kind of databases. Apart from the agricultural collection practices guidelines, GMP guidelines, SOPs, standardization, monographs, regulatory agencies are also coming up, and they have prepared certain regulations for setting up a industry that is dealing with the manufacturing of herbal products. So if somebody wants to set up a herbal drug industry, he or she has to fulfill those conditions, those requirements to set up an industry. And vis-a-vis, regulatory agencies are also working on the implementation of those guidelines. It doesn't mean that they are just developing the guidelines or the rules and regulations, but they are looking into that these regulations or the conditions should be implemented religiously. Now, if we come back to the monograph aspects of the crude herbal drugs, and I would just like to highlight the status of the monographs of crude herbal drugs in our country, and in Indian Pharmacopoeia specifically, because we know that Indian Pharmacopoeia is a standard document, a standard book for the pharmaceutical industry. So, though the crude herbal monographs were there in the Indian Pharmacopoeia since its inception in the British era as well, but the monographs on the modern lines, that is the development of the monographs on modern lines, started in 1966. And in 1966 volume of Indian Pharmacopoeia, the monographs of three drugs, namely Jetamansi, that is Nodostachys jetamansi, Rasna, that is Pluchia lanceolata, and Vidang, that is Emilia ribes. The monographs of these three drugs were developed on the modern lines and were incorporated in 1966 volume of Indian Pharmacopoeia. Though the list of the drug was of 15 drugs, but only three monographs were selected. And then after 1966, addition of more and more monographs of crude herbal drugs became a regular feature for the Indian Pharmacopoeia. Now, besides monograph, in Indian Pharmacopoeia, a chapter on the herbs and herbal product standards have been incorporated in Indian Pharmacopoeia 2007A volume. So you can just imagine the importance of the herbal drugs or herbal drug industry in our country, that a separate chapter for herbal drugs and herbal product standard has been incorporated in Indian Pharmacopoeia. And in the same year, in the same volume, 58 more monographs of crude herbal drugs were incorporated. And by 2016, the number of monographs of crude herbal drugs increased to 150. And in the current volume of Indian Pharmacopoeia, that is 2018 volume, which is the latest volume of Indian Pharmacopoeia, 15 more monographs of the herbal drugs or their products have been included in Indian Pharmacopoeia, and the total number of the monographs at present in Indian Pharmacopoeia is 165. Now, besides Indian Pharmacopoeia, we also have Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India, which is another official document or book, which is having monograph of more than 250 medicinal plants. And apart from Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India, we also have Ayurvedic Formulary of India, which is having the formulas and the methods of preparation of various Ayurvedic formulations. So you can just imagine how the government is working to regularize or to improve the quality of the herbal products. On the same line, in 2015, central government notified drugs and cosmetic amendment rules, which were focused to amend the DNC Act of 1945. And according to this amended rules, they have incorporated regulatory requirements for manufacturing and marketing of a new class of drugs, that is phytopharmaceutical drugs. Now, just I will give you a brief perspective about the type of the classes of the herbal drugs that can be manufactured as well as marketed in our country. Basically, we have broadly three types of drug classes. First is the classical ASU drugs, that is classical Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani drugs. These are those drugs that are manufactured by using the ingredients as well as the method of manufacturing or method of preparation which is given in the standard Ayurvedic text or standard Ayurvedic books. So any product that is manufactured using the ingredients as well as the method that is prescribed in these books, they come under the classical ASU drug category. Second is the patented and the proprietary ASU drugs. These are those drugs that are manufactured by using a formula having an ingredients that are mentioned in the traditional Ayurvedic text, but the method of their manufacturing of the formulation has been modified, or a new method has been used for the manufacturing of the product or the formulation. So such drugs come under the patented or the proprietary ASU drugs. And the third is the latest one, that is phytopharmaceutical drugs, and these includes the extracts or the fractions or the concentrated fractions or the purified fractions that are standardized on the basis of at least 4 chemical constituents, which are considered as the marker compounds for those products, for those crude drugs. So these were the broadly three basically herbal drugs classes that can be manufactured and marketed in India. I have not included the other classes like herbal cosmetics and so on and so forth. So therapeutically, these are the three types of the classes of the drugs. So in this slide, you can just see the growth of the number of the monographs that have been incorporated in different volumes of Indian Pharmacopoeia. In 1985, there were around 44 monographs, and in the latest volume, that is the 2018 volume, there are 165 monographs of crude herbal drugs or their products. So you can just see that in the last 35 years, there has been an increase of 4 times the number of the monographs at present. So we are just working hard to incorporate more and more monographs. Now coming back to the term standardization. Basically, standardization, I have already told you that it has become one of the important tools for improving the quality of the herbal drugs. So standardization is a process by which you establish certain standards of those parameters that help in assessing the quality of the crude herbal drug. So in short, we can say that standardization helps in the quality control of herbal drugs, and by the process of standardization, the outcome is in the form of monographs. So we can say that with the help of standardization, we develop certain standards for specific parameters, and when these parameters are compiled in a document, that leads to the genesis of monograph. So standardization controls the quality of herbal drugs, as well as the monographs are the outcome of standardization. But question is how the quality of the crude drugs is assessed, or what do we understand by the term quality in case of herbal drugs. Now the term quality is composed of 4 basic parameters, or we can say that the quality of herbal drugs can be assessed by the 4 basic parameters, or in the 4 areas, that is the purity, safety, efficacy and suitability of use. So if your drug is fulfilling all these 4 criteria, purity, efficacy, safety and suitability of use, we can say that the drug or herbal crude drug is of a good quality. Now how these 4 criteria are fulfilled? There are different parameters that help in fulfilling these 4 criteria. And in this slide, you can see number of parameters are there that help in assessing the quality of crude herbal drug. These includes determination of foreign matter, identification or authentication of a herbal drug on the basis of macroscopy, microscopic evaluation and DNA fingerprinting. DNA fingerprinting is now becoming a method of choice because it is considered as one of the best method for establishing the authenticity of a food drug, and more regulatory agencies are now putting a lot of stress to use DNA fingerprinting as an authentication tool. But by and large, most of the identification of the crude herbal drugs is still done by using macroscopic and microscopic evaluation. And besides the identification aspects, we have another parameter that is physicochemical parameters, and these include number of parameters like extractive value, ash values, which I'll be covering in the subsequent lectures. And then we have chromatographic fingerprinting or marker analysis of the crude drugs. Then we have determination of heavy metals, microbial load, pesticidal residue, levels of aflatoxins, and radioactive contaminations. So if you look into the slides, I have mentioned these parameters in fonts of fonts with two colors, and the parameters that are mentioned in white or slightly creamish font, they basically help in fulfilling the purity and efficacy aspects of the quality, whereas the parameters that are mentioned in the red font, they help in fulfilling the safety and suitability of the use of a crude herbal drug. By and large, most of these parameters also overlap sometimes, but broadly we can categorize these parameters in these two categories: the parameters that help in assessing the purity and efficacy, and the parameters that help in assessing the safety and suitability of the use of the crude herbal drugs. Now, before we move on to the parameters, the first and the foremost important step for assessing the quality is the sampling of the crude drug. Now, whenever we go to a market to purchase certain vegetables, we basically first inspect one or two pieces of the required vegetables from a vendor. And if those two pieces basically fulfill our requirement or satisfy our requirements, then definitely we will purchase vegetable from that particular vendor. If they do not fulfill, then we obviously look for some other vendor. Now, what we are doing is we are just sampling the material which we want to purchase. Now, same is the process when we are using crude herbal drugs. Sampling becomes an important aspect. And why it becomes an important aspect? Because sampling represents or it will tell you about the quality of the whole lot of the raw material. Further, the sample which you will take out from the lot of the raw material, it will represent the whole lot and should truly represent the material that is to be used. That is why sampling has become an important aspect of quality control, and sampling should be done properly. Now, before collecting the samples, we should always inspect the container or the packaging unit or the packaging material in which the raw material is being packed. We should always first look for the packaging and the labeling requirement of that container, whether the material, the labeling and the packaging requirements are being fulfilled or not. And second, whether the packaging container or the packaging unit, whether it is damaged or certain kind of cracks are there in it or not. So first you have to satisfy this initial parameters, then only you will open the containers. Now, once we are satisfied with the packaging and labeling requirements and the condition of the packaging container or the unit, we open the container, and we just have a broad overview of that particular raw material in terms of its organoleptic characters like its color, its fragrance, its odor, and whether the drug is present in the cut form or it is in the fragmented or it is present in a compressed form. And then we also look whether the material is having any kind of admixture or any sand material or any kind of insects are there in the container, or whether there is any presence of packaging material or the pieces of the packaging material which should not be there in the container. So once we are satisfied with this kind of inspection, then we move on to the next step, that is the collection of sample. But before collecting the sample, another question is from how many containers we should collect the sample. Because obviously if we are in a herbal drug industry or in a lab, we are going to have number of containers that will have raw material. So how many containers you should sample to get a uniform or a sample that represent the whole lot of the raw material. So according to the guidelines, if you are having around 5 containers, you have to take sample from all the 5 containers. And if the number of container ranges from 6 to 50, then we have to take sample from at least 5 containers. And if the number of the containers or the packaging unit is more than 50, then we will take the number of containers to the 10% value of the total number of the containers, and rounding off that value to the next higher 10. This means I will explain you this step by an example. Suppose there are 520 containers from which we have to take samples, or the total lot of raw material is packed in 520 containers. Now, according to this rule, 10% of 520 containers is 52 containers. But we will not take sample from 52 containers. We will round off this figure 52 to next higher 10, that is 60. And we will take sample from the 60 containers. So this is how the sampling is done. So we have done certain initial inspections. Now we have selected the number of the containers from which sample has to be taken. And then now we will collect the sample. Now how to collect the sample? The sample of a crude herbal drug is to be collected from the top, middle and the bottom layer of the sample. So we have to take sample from the three different portions of the container, and the top layer includes the sample should be taken from minimum depth of 10 centimeters. Now while collecting the sample, care should be taken that we should not damage or fragment the sample, we should not spill over the sample over that particular place. Now once the sample is collected from the containers, these samples are mixed and make up into a heap. This heap is divided into 4 equal parts, and we select any 2 diagonally opposite parts, and we again mix those 2 parts and again do the divide those 2 parts or the heap into again 4 parts. Then we again select the diagonally 2 opposite parts till we get the required amount of the sample. Now this whole process is known as quartering of the sample. This is how the basically final sample is being obtained, which from which we basically analyze or determine the values of various parameters. Now the first parameter is the determination of the foreign matter. Now basically, what is a foreign matter? Foreign matter is defined as a part of the herbal material or materials other than those named in the limits specified for the herbal material concerned. This means that anything which is not falling under the definition of that particular drug constitutes the foreign matter, number one. Second, if it is a part of that particular drug and it is present beyond the prescribed limits, it becomes a foreign matter. Say for example, if a drug is being leafy part of a plant is being used as a drug, it happens that while collecting the leaves, vendors normally add pieces of stem to increase the bulk or to increase the weight of the sample. And if the amount of those stalks or petioles is beyond the prescribed limits, it becomes a foreign matter, though it is part of the same plant. Apart from the vegetative material, if any organism, part of organism or the product of an organism other than specified in the definition of a drug, or it is beyond the specified limits, it becomes a foreign matter. Similarly, mineral admixtures not adhering to the herbal materials such as soils, stones, sands and dust, normally these should not be present in the raw material, so they also become a part of foreign matter. Apart from all these, various molds or insects or any other animal contamination or excreta forms the component of a foreign matter. So this is how the foreign matter is being defined, and how to determine the foreign matter. Now we take the sample of the crude material which is under inspection. Now again the question comes, how much sample we have to take. Now the amount of the sample depends upon the plant part which is being under investigation. So if we are using roots, rhizome or bark of a plant, then we require minimum 500 grams of a sample. If we are having leaves, flowers, seeds and fruit as a sample, we require 250 gram of that particular sample. If we are using an entire herb, then 50 gram of sample is required. Now how to determine the required amount of the sample is weighed and it is spread on a thin white paper sheet, and then we manually inspect that material and remove the foreign matter by our bare hands. We can remove the foreign matter with the help of naked eye, or we can also use a magnifying glass having a power of 6 times or 10 times magnification. So this is how we separate the foreign matter. Once the foreign matter is separated from the sample is sifted through a sieve number 250, and the material that is sifted out of the sieve is considered as the mineral admixture or the mineral foreign matter of that particular drug. Now, how to express that the value of the foreign matter which you have separated? Normally, the foreign matter is expressed as the weight of the foreign matter per 100 gram of the drug, or in the percent weight by weight of the sample. Now, percent we normally calculate by weighing the amount of foreign matter that is separated divided by the amount of the raw material that has been sampled or that was used to determine the foreign matter into 100. That gives you the percent weight by weight of the sample. Now, another important aspect of foreign matter is that it is always expressed in not more than, because foreign matter is not a desirable component of the crude herbal drug, and it is always desired that the crude raw material should contain minimum amount of foreign matter. So it is always expressed in not more than. Say you can see various examples on this slide. Valerian roots should not have more than 5% of stem bases as foreign matter. Those stem bases are again part of the valerian plant only, but if they are present in more than 5% of the value, then they are considered as foreign matter. Similarly, the other material that should be present in valerian as a foreign matter should not be more than 2%. Similarly, cascara bark should not have more than 1% of foreign matter. Psyllium seeds should not have more than 1% of foreign matter. Now, this foreign matter includes the unripe green seeds. Here you can see the importance of the definition of foreign matter. Though the psyllium seeds are used for therapeutic purpose, but the unripe seeds are not used for therapeutic purpose. So unripe seeds, if they are present in beyond 1%, they are also considered as foreign matter. Though they are psyllium seeds only, but still if they are present beyond the prescribed limit, they constitute the foreign matter. Similarly, senna leaves, they should not have more than 3% of raw material. That includes again the petiole and stalks, which are normally added to increase the weight of the raw material. So friends, in today's lecture, we discussed about the importance of the quality of herbal drugs, and we also enlist various parameters that help in assessing the quality of those herbal materials. Then we discussed how the sampling should be done and how foreign matter is discussed. In the next lecture, we move on to the identification aspects of herbal drugs, and I'll be focusing on the macroscopic evaluation of herbal drugs. Thank you.